Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here. Again, thank you very, very much, as always, for taking the time to tune in. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by spiritual energy healer Richard Tierney, who is here to discuss primarily his 12-step program that enables anyone suffering from emotional trauma to break free of their past memories and experience release and relief. Having come from a post-traumatic experiences himself and loathe to endure that part for his lifetime, Richard was committed to finding a solution to such things as PTSD and depression that was caused by his past trauma recovery. And he learned that these conditions cannot be successfully healed because they are in fact states of mind. But if you could heal and release the past trauma memory that caused his conditions, his mental states, then it stood to reason for him that if the cause of the condition was released, there would be no reason to continue to suffer these dysfunctional learned states of being. And I think that's going to be key for the conversation today. And this is when he decided to move away from professional mental health support to pursue spiritual and spiritual healing and spiritual solutions that would heal the hole in his soul. At a certain point, Richard realised that he was part of the problem, the trauma, and not any part of the solution. And over time, he developed this 12-step program and a separate healing event that precedes the 12 steps. Richard is living in Thailand right now, but he is originally from Ireland, and I am living in Canada right now, and I'm originally from Scotland, of course. So it's the wonders of, I don't know, what could you say, the impossibility of the way that we can communicate in the world today, that you have two folks from the homeland in completely different parts of the world able to connect through such an important topic. I'm really looking forward to this one today, Richard. Thank you very, very much for joining me today.
Gary, thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro. I'm smiling here from ear to ear. I think I mentioned earlier on, to meet a fellow Celt, and we're on different parts of the world, not even in our hometowns. There's something about chatting to another Celt. We Celts, we speak way too fast, and if we're amongst Celts, we'll just gibberish. We speak so fast, everyone understands us. When we come into the real world, like in Canada or Ireland, and we're speaking to normal people, we have to speak slowly and pronounce our words and pronounce our letters. So it's really cool to be here and have a bit of both. So thanks for having me, Gary. Really great to be here.
I'm absolutely thrilled that you're able to join me today. So let's start with your journey thus far. Obviously, I explained just a couple of wee parts in terms of some of the experiences that have been your inspiration for working through and up to the 12-step program that you have. Specifically, what sparked your drive towards spiritual energy healing?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. It's almost a catch-22. I believe that every one of us have suffered a trauma at birth, that before we started into trauma in our childhood or beyond that, we're God's children. We're blessed with God's given instincts, which are our feelings and emotions. That when we are triggered by some danger, real or imaginary, our emotions kick in and we experience anxiety or fear. And that's our instincts telling us to take some form of action, which is fight, flight, or freeze. Now, I saw recently, I think it was on TikTok, there was two guys inside a womb, and one saying to the other, "What do you think is there life after the womb?" And your man says, "No. When they cut the umbilical cord, we're dead. It's all over. There's nothing after this." And the other guy says, "But maybe if when we leave the womb, there'll be a whole new world out there, and we'll have our own." No, we can't live without this conversation going on about is there life after death kind of thing. But this is about the umbilical cord. And what brings me to this is when we come out of the womb, we don't die. We come into a new life. But our responses to danger, fight, flight, or freeze kick in that moment. Now, if you're a baby that comes out and you come out and you're comatose, the midwife holds you up by the ankles, slaps you the bum to get a reaction out of you. And then with reaction, they put you in a blanket and put you into the cot or give you to the mother. But in that moment, your first instinct to danger is to freeze. And the midwife slapping your bum to get a reaction to see that you're alive robs you of that instinct. Now, that's your instinct in danger. For me, it might be flight, it might be fight. Your instinct is to freeze, and that's taken from you at birth. So when you go into real life, then your natural response to danger has been taken from you at birth. So your instinct to freeze is taken from you. Now you're left with flight or fight, two responses that aren't your natural response. So then you're something happens in your life, and you end up being stuck. You can't run away, and you don't know what to do. You don't know which one to trust, and freeze is taken from you. And likewise, you come out of the womb and you're kicking and screaming and whatever. You could be in fight, you could be in fight. We don't know, but they're wrapped into a blanket and you're put in the cart. And again, you're told fighting doesn't work or flight doesn't work. And then that is robbed from you. So then you come into life where you know you can't fight. You have to resort to flight or freeze. Whereas your natural tendency is a fighter, to stand up for yourself. And that's taken from you. And then when you suffer a trauma, you go into shock. You don't know how to react. And same with the flight and whatever the situation be. Now, the child that comes out of the womb content and peaceful. And then because it's content and peaceful, they hand the child to the mother. The mother holds the child. The connection, even though the umbilical cord is cut, that connection of being lying against the mother's heart, the child goes into life being a whole, complete person. And they go on to be the strong, silent type we meet. You know, the one you look up to. I wish I was like him. You know, he's strong, silent type. He's the go-getter. He's really in control of his emotions. And they're the kind of people who came out of the womb and they weren't in fight, flight, or freeze. They were just in acceptance. They just came out, were hands of the mother. They made that connection and all was fine. But the rest of us, we've been robbed of one of our responses of fight, flight, and freeze. And then children growing up nowadays, they're told they can't react. To be seen and not heard. You can't throw tantrums. You can't do this, that, and the other. All these messages to children. With their first primary response taken, they're left with the other two, and then they're told they're not to react. And first of all, they don't know how to react because their original response is taken from them. But then they're told they're not to react because they're children and they shouldn't talk back and all these kind of things. They get very mixed messages. So children come into life, and before you even get anywhere near adolescence or teenage years or adult life, your ability to respond to danger is severely dented. And then they don't trust their feelings. And then they believe this thing that if they feel anything, it's a mental disorder. If they feel anxious, then it's anxiety disorder. If they feel stressed, it's PTSD. If they feel depressed, it's depressive disorder. And they're not allowed to have feelings or to express their feelings or to respond with their three primary responses. So before we start off, it's really a hard place for children to grow up in. Now, when I grew up at home, we were allowed to we had the Bible in school, and there was catechism classes, and there was church. And every Sunday, the family would walk down to church together. You come out of the gate of your house walking down, and you'd meet other families with your schoolmates and their families walking down to church together. You'd meet each other, and you'd go to church together. There's that communal bond of that. You'd be hearing about love and service, forgiveness. All the stuff you'd be trained into children praying at night, saying your morning prayers, your night prayers. All that kind of stuff. It was a big part of growing up that you knew there was a God and he cared for you. And your instincts, your feelings were God-given and they were okay to have. But that's all been lost. So kids coming into life nowadays, there's no church, there's no religion in schools. It's almost like if you think of going to church or something, you're frowned upon. You're seen as being something wrong with you. You're teased or bullied, or you're a crazy one, you're a religious freak or something. And children are robbed of that ability to know God. It's a terrible crime we've done against children, to rob them of the ability to know God. Now, you bring that into life. First off, they have maybe one of their coping skills are taken from them. Secondly, they learn that they're not meant to feel their feelings, that they're mental disorders, whatever feeling they have, and they're meant to suppress their emotions. And then they've no understanding that God cares about them, or that God wants them to live abundantly. And then I heard recently on a TikTok, I'm going to stop to give you a chance to come in, but there's a TikTok about where God created each of us so he could experience life on this earth abundantly. And then he wonders why we're choosing despair and despondency and depression, scarcity and poverty. Think like, why would they choose to live that way? Why aren't they choosing to live in abundance of happiness, joy, wealth and prosperity, success? Why are they choosing all these terrible ways to live? And I think we've been conditioned to be victims.
Yeah. So in terms of your direct experience, Richard, what would you say was the key? Was there like an isolated incident or a series of incidents that culminated for you to say, stop, I have to do something about this. I need something different, which then manifested itself into saying, I believe I can help other people with this. You know, was there that like aha moment?
But I think there is for everybody at some stage. But first of all, we have to understand that that's what I've just shared with you is the foundation of the victimhood in each and every one of us. Okay? That's there always in the background. you'll remember certainly in your childhood being told children will be seen, not heard, all this kind of stuff, and you can't react. So that's always in the background, which is part of making us who we are, being submissive and passive aggressive. So that's all there first. And then as a child, I suffered I don't want to trigger anybody. So I suffered a trauma event when I was 12 years of age. And I believe I must have attracted that person to me. I must have sent a signal out. Because I wasn't capable of being true to myself or being a real person. I didn't know whether to stand up or sit down or to all the kind of stuff I didn't know at 12 years of age. And then I suffered this trauma. And I believe that must have been my fault. So that even made me withdraw more into myself. And as I grew older, I found ways to escape, like addiction, like gambling and alcohol, and then there was self-harm. I never really got drugs, but I tried medication. And I tried anything I could to heal the hole in my soul. It was a hole in my soul. I didn't believe I was mentally ill. I believed that I had a spiritual malady. And this hole in my soul was eating away at me. And I could be sitting in front of you right now, and I could look perfectly okay, perfectly normal. I could put on a smile and you think I'm okay. But inside is the hole in my soul eating away at me. Yeah. And it's like, if you can imagine a disease eating away at my soul inside, and I've got a brave face and everyone thinks that he's okay, but he's not. We see these movies where the guys are going to the football match every week, and suddenly the guy doesn't turn up at the match. They're kind of wondering what happened to him, and he killed himself. Like, they all told he was okay going to football matches, whatever. Sitting there in the audience, they all assumed he's okay, but no one could see the hole in his soul. We see this again and again. People who take their lives or whatever, and then no one could see the pain they were in because they had a hole in their soul.
Yeah.
So I had this hole in my soul. Now, I had a mentor in AA. They called him a sponsor. When you get into a 12-step program, the idea is you find someone who's in the program longer than you and has used the 12-step program, after that program, to change and become a better person, to stop drinking or drugging or whatever the condition is, and then to become a whole person again and be part of community. And you find someone who resonates with you, and you kind of go, I want to be like Gary. I'm going to ask Gary to be my sponsor so I can learn how to be like Gary. So I ask Gary, how do you do these 12 steps? I'll do what he says, and then I'll become a bit like Gary. And I'll find Tom, and I'll do Tom, and I'll find Steve, and I'll do Steve. And as many sponsors I can get, I learn these different ways of reacting to life compared to mine, which is passive-aggressive, victimhood, martyr, blame, shame. I want to get away from all that into a case of having a real relationship to people and whatever. And so this guy said to me one day, isn't it time you stop flogging that dead horse? And I was shocked. How dare you? I'm a victim. You can't tell me I can't be a victim anymore. Do you realize what happened to me and what happened to my childhood and all this kind of stuff? And you can't say that. And I was furious. I was going to fire the fucker. I really was so angry at this guy. But it was the first time in my life I had taken the opportunity to trust another man. I couldn't leave anywhere. I couldn't tell my parents what happened to my father, my brothers, my best friends. But I had to find a stranger and tell him what happened. To trust him, that I'd meet him week and we do work on myself and change myself. And so I wanted to fire the fucker and just start again somewhere else. Someone who listened to my bitching, moaning about poor me.
Yeah.
But I realized I had achieved something by trusting another human being, a man. Since what happened to me was from a man, to trust a stranger was a huge thing for me, a huge achievement for me. And I felt like because I'd taken this opportunity, this chance to trust this man, I had to listen to what he said and understand why he may have said that. Why would he say to me, you can't be a victim anymore, you have to let it go? Why would he say that to me?
Yeah.
Because I realized working with him, I was learning to become a new person. And this probably was the next hurdle I had to get over, was how could I find a way of not suffering? So this is what the culmination, I realized. So this is about 10 years ago. So I'm 64 years of age today. So when I worked with this man, I was 52 years of age. And I realized I'm a 52-year-old man carrying the pains and hurts of a 12-year-old child. What happened to a 12-year-old child. It didn't happen to this 52-year-old man. This 52-year-old man is married. He's living in Thailand, another continent, 7,000 miles away from where he was born. Both his parents are dead. Of his 5 siblings, one died of leukemia. The family home is sold. His grandparents are dead. All his aunts and uncles are dead. And he's married himself, and he's got 2 grown-up adult children. And then that 12-year-old child lives at home with his parents in the family home. The family home is still in the family. His 5 siblings are all alive. No one's died of leukemia. His grandparents are alive. All his aunts and uncles are alive. And he's a school child going to school. And he's in that place of innocence before the trauma happened. So I can clearly see that what happened to that child didn't happen to this man, because I only have these 24 hours today. So my 24 hours today, I took my wife shopping. I took my dog for a walk. I did some work at home in the house. I prepared for this podcast with you. I'm sitting here having this podcast with you. I'm not a 12-year-old child 50 years ago, 40 years ago, suffering a trauma event. I'm here in your company, producing this podcast and loving every minute of it. My life is here today. What happened in the past didn't happen to me. I carry the memory of what happened to that 12-year-old child, and I carry sympathy pains for him for what he went through. But it didn't happen to me, it happened to him. What I'm carrying today is sympathy pains. And that was the crux of realizing it didn't happen to me. It's none of my business.
Yeah, that's incredible. There's so much to unpack there. And one of the key things that came out for me was that event where another man, which could be triggering in and of itself as you related back to your past trauma, then kind of stops you in your tracks by saying, "Hey, listen, you need to pick a different path." It really made me think. A good friend of mine from back home was going through some counselling, I believe, related to Alcoholics Anonymous. You mentioned AA earlier there too, and I wasn't party to the actual details, but he was sharing the fact that he was talking about all the things that were going against him in his life and the challenges that he was facing. And then someone in the group had said, "Have you ever considered shutting the fuck up?" You know, and excuse my language, but it's very pertinent, to the story, because I think that was a catalyst moment for him, or certainly a T-junction moment where he had made a decision to go one way or the other, and it stopped him, and he said, "Actually, no one's ever asked me that question before." It didn't sound like it was a question that was posed, to be perfectly honest, but it was along those lines as well, and really what I wanted to concentrate on then, in terms of the trust factor. You have 40 years of growing from this kid who had this traumatic event, going through the experiences that you laterally understand are connected to this traumatic event, and you're trying different methods as best you know how to navigate them, to try and dissipate the feelings, thoughts and emotions, whatever that looks like as you're moving forward. And then you get to a spot where you realize that trust hasn't really been a factor in anything, and certainly trust of males close to you. So then you have this somewhat remote or distant relationship, if I could say that, with this adult male, assuming it was an adult, that says this thing to you, and then you use that opportunity. So the door has been opened, Richard. You then use that opportunity to say, should I walk through or should I stay where I am? And it sounds like you decided to walk through. How did that play out?
Well, there's a couple of things as well that come into it that I learned from this challenge from my mentor. And the couple of things are, one is the person who abused me. He didn't target me. I wasn't his target or his victim. He was acting out for his own benefit, and I happened to be collateral damage. He didn't wake up that morning saying, "I'm going to find Richard Tierney, I'm going to abuse him." He woke up thinking, "I want to act out. I'm going to act out with the first person I see." And it happened to be me, but it wasn't that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It wasn't that it was my fault. He was looking after his needs. Yeah. It wasn't about me. And that was a big part of this, was I am the victim. So anything happens in my life, if the Thai government decide to kick all the Westerners out of Thailand and we have to leave, and I have to leave my wife and children, the Thai government didn't sit down and say, "Okay, let's get Richard Tierney in Chiang Mai. Let's kick him out, but kick everybody else with him, so we're actually out to get him." I'm not the victim, and I'm the target. And that's what I have to learn straight away. Everything that happens in my life is not aimed at me solely. And that was a big turning point in this.
Yeah.
When we can come to realize that all the shit, and no matter how bad, and some people have horrible lives. I was chatting to a chap yesterday, and I couldn't get over his trauma. It was just trauma after trauma after trauma. Everything happened. His parents died. He got married. His child got physically born physical disability. He got physically unwell. It was just one after another. But the whole thing was he wasn't the victim of it. Someone didn't go out and say, "Okay, we want to get this guy. I'm going to screw this guy up." It just happened that things like I love that phrase. Shit happens.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm the victim or I'm the target. It's just that shit happens. That's all. And it's not being in the wrong place in the wrong time, or you did something wrong, or karma. Feck karma. Just shit happens. It's just that's the way it is. And if you can see that I'm not the victim, not the target, then things changed. So in this realization that what happened in the past, I wasn't the target, I wasn't the victim. And even that 12-year-old child wasn't the target, wasn't the victim. The person who traumatized that child didn't target him. It just happened to be that they seemed to be in the same place at the same time. It was just a fluke, it was just a chance. Yeah. That helped an awful lot for me to see that it wasn't mine to suffer. Yeah. If anyone's going to do any treatment, it's the person who did it needs to deal with their shit. But it just happened I was collateral damage. So that was a big part of it for starters. Secondly, it was a case of I knew I wasn't mentally ill. I knew that the way I responded to the trauma and the way I responded to carrying this for 40 years wasn't mental illness. Actually, it was actually really healthy coping skills on my part. Now, in the eyes of a therapist, they may seem erratic and crazy.
Yeah.
But they kept me sane and sober and alive. Even becoming an alcoholic, it kept me alive. Becoming a compulsive gambler kept me alive. Stealing from everybody I knew, keep stealing from the poor box in the church, kept me alive. All my erratic, crazy behaviors kept me alive. So it wasn't an act of mental illness. I didn't have a mental disorder. I had a hole in my soul. Really, I've heard people say a broken spirit or a wounded soul, or a warrior survivor. All these phrases I relate to the soul. And if the soul is hurt or damaged or anyway wounded, like a hole in the soul or something, that's where the center of our being is. It's not about what happens outside of outside of these 5 inches. It's not what happens in my life today here in Thailand or in Canada or anywhere else, or what happens in Canada or back in Ireland, or what my brothers and sisters do or anyone else does. That means nothing. It's how I perceive it from inside these 5 inches, and how it affects my soul. And if it's eating away at me, all the medication in the world, all the therapy in the world, all the drugs, all the alcohol, nothing will help it if it's eating away at my whole of my soul. But if I can get this out of my soul and discard it, and I can heal that hole in my soul, I'm content to live any life. Bring it on, whatever how bad it is. I couldn't give a care, because if I'm at peace in my soul, I know I can handle anything. Life chosen me. I can handle anything. And if it means that my life's going to be over, okay, it's going to be over. I'll move on to the next, like coming out of the womb. I'm going to move on to the next plane of existence. It's okay, I can do that. So when you find the ability to realize that we're not mentally ill, we don't have a mental disorder. And you know what really blows me away? Veterans, soldiers who go to war, who enlist to go to war, they are psych evaluated before they're given a gun. They do a psych evaluation as to whether they're sane or they're insane. If they're insane, the army won't let them sign up because they're not going to give a gun to an insane person. So every soldier who enlists, every person who enlists is sane. Then they go off and they go to a war or a conflict or something, and they suffer the horrors of war. And they come back from that with the stress of the nightmares of it. And then they're told they have a mental disorder. How can you go from being sane to being a mental disorder because you survived a war? That doesn't make any sense to me. But it does make sense that they come back from a war and they have a hole in their soul, that the spirit has been broken. Their understanding of humanity and what man should do to man has been taken from them. When they see man doing horrors to another human being, that can destroy your soul. Nothing mentally ill about that. And then the other big thing what gets me is a mental disorder is a person's opinion of you. It's not set in stone. So you go to a therapist and you tell them what's going on with you and they say, well, I think you have a mental disorder and your mental disorder is depression. That's their opinion. It doesn't mean that that's who you are now. Gary's no longer Gary Gillian. Gary's now Gary with the mental disorder. Richie's no longer Richard Tierney. Now Richie is Richard with the depression disorder. But that's someone's opinion and they could be wrong. They can't see inside your soul, how it affects you, how it's eating away at you. So to say that you have a mental disorder, and for us to be conditioned to accept that as being our truth, I think is a terrible injustice we do to ourselves. That we take these opinions on as facts. Some therapist says, yes, Gary, you have a depression disorder, or you have an anxiety disorder. And we say, okay, what do I do now? We're going to give you medication and therapy for it. And you kind of go, well, no, that's your opinion. I don't believe that's the case. I believe I have a hole in my soul. I believe my spirit is broken. I want to heal my spirit. Help me with that first before I go down the road of medication and therapy. How do I heal my soul? And suddenly again, it's like, give me the chance to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Because if I go down the mental disorder path, I'm now a broken person who takes medication all my life and not present in my day.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So one key thing that puts a hole in my soul is when someone says Gillian as my last name when it's Gillen. So we'll so we'll move on swiftly from that one. But a couple of things that you mentioned there, and I'm really glad you went back to the diagnosis part because I wanted to come back to that. But one of the key things that you said prior was, that you weren't a target. It wasn't a specific thing that someone said, Richard Tierney is going to suffer my wrath today, is going to be beholden to me in some way or something like that. It ended up being, as you said, a fluke, some sort of randomness attached to that. And having that lesson, I deal with so many clients, Richard, over spanning, industries, genders, age range, experience and such, that trying to get the message across to saying it's not about you. And it's very, very difficult to comprehend in the moment, when especially when you're attaching your being to a specific event or series of events that have culminated in you being where you are at that particular point in time, and trying to say, listen, it's not about you. Well, you don't understand, Gary, because she said that directly to my face when everyone else was there. I understand that, and I understand that that part of it was directed at you, but it's still not about you. No one is thinking about you as much as you think they are, and no one is thinking about you as much as you're thinking about yourself. So if you imagine that being the same for every single other human being out there, my intent, my hope is for a more expansive thought pattern for each of the clients, and to think a bit more expansively outside of themselves, to say, well, wait a second, even if there is, for example, bullying at work or bullying in the playground or anywhere in a life circumstance or situation, and it's being directed at you, the ability to be able to say, it's not about me, it's about what this other person is going through, has gone through, and whatever has been attached to him or her going forward, creates, I believe, a healthy distance to be able to start the healing journey a little bit quicker as well. So I wanted to just compound exactly what you said there earlier. And in terms of the diagnosis, I couldn't agree more in terms of opinions and in terms of someone saying, in my opinion, this is what it is. I was thinking about this very recently when I was thinking about editing a book. That was the topic I was thinking about. And then you get an editor or editors and you hand in your transcript and manuscript and you say, this is what it is. And then they get to work and they say, that doesn't make sense, shorten that sentence, expand that thought. What are you trying to get the reader to feel? And it started to make me think, that's just that one person's style, experience, preference, understanding of the topic, what they're hoping to feel or what they are feeling in and of the moment. And then you expand that out to the news and what you're being fed and what you're able to consume. It's all related to someone's opinion at some point of saying, this is good enough. This is what people should listen to. This is what people should consume. This is what people should absorb. So that, I didn't grow up with that. Like if I went to a doctor as a kid, the doctor was an authority figure. The doctor said, this is what it is. He'll write something on a sheet of paper. You take it to the chemist or the pharmacy, as we say here in North America, and you go and get that and you do it. And there are certain things where obviously there's a physical thing that they would say, this is what it is. Like we know medical science has proven this is what it is. This is what you need to do to get rid of it quickly. But when you start to talk about affairs of the soul and, affairs of the emotions and such, I would encourage the listeners and viewers to appreciate and understand that the person that is diagnosing you has a sliver of understanding of who you are as a person and what your life has culminated in terms of your experiences. And they're doing the very best they can with the information that you've imparted to them to say, this is what it is. But knowing and understanding you're the only one that truly knows everything that's going on, and some of it might already be suppressed and not actually genuinely visible to you or other people at that particular moment. Don't take it as the absolute truth that
Sure.
someone says
Yeah.
this is exactly what it is.
But there's another part of that. I was trying to tell you about the fight, flight, and freeze. So let's imagine you're in a situation, okay, and your response is to fight, okay, and your therapist's response is to flight or freeze. Now, the therapist looking at you thinks, oh, Gary has a death wish. He's suicidal. He's no value for life. He's willing to throw his life away. He's bipolar, or he's whatever it is. We're going to treat him with this mental disorder. Now, in their eyes, in their view, their diagnosis of you is probably correct in their view. And if they're looking to their colleagues, they'd say, we agree, we concur. Now, on the other hand, you're looking at your therapist who's after running away, and you're kind of going, you big coward, you selfish, self-centered bastard, you're running away and leaving your wife and children behind? That's narcissistic. That's like so selfish, self-centered. You're the problem. You've got a mental disorder that you can actually run away and leave people suffer behind you. And everyone else says, we concur with you. Now, you're both right in your opinions, but you're both completely wrong. Because you are reacting to danger as is appropriate for you by your God-given instincts. And your therapist is reacting to danger for them as appropriate for them in their God-given instincts. So although they're not reacting the way you think they should react, and you're not reacting the way they think you should react, neither of you are wrong reacting the way you're reacting. And that's the big problem we have. You might have a therapist who thinks your behavior is completely wrong because it's against their idea of what you should do. Like you said, someone's editing your book and they see your book and they don't like how you've written it. That's just there. But they're thinking, no, you have to do it my way. But it's like, I don't want to do it your way. This is my way. I write it this way. And you're saying shorten it. I want to extend it. So we have to find some way. If we can find a therapist who's also a fighter. So you're going to go therapy. Okay, I'm a fighter. I want a therapist who's a fighter also. So when I talk to him, he'll understand me. But I don't want a therapist who's flight or freeze, because they're going to contradict and go against everything I suggest. If I'm a fighter and they're flight or freeze, they're going to be completely opposed to what I suggest. In the days of the Vikings, the story was that the Vikings would attack and the village would split up into three groups. Those who could defend the village would take up arms. Those who were fit enough to run away, they'd run for the hills and hide out in caves. And children and old people who couldn't get away in time, they'd cover themselves in chicken blood or pork blood, and they'd hide under the floor beds or in the haystack, or they'd lay on the ground and pretend they were dead. They'd freeze. And then the Vikings would come along and they'd attack the fort, whatever, and they'd probably slay all the defenders, and they'd move on their thing. And then the people in the caves would come out, and the people on the ground would get up, and they'd do that theory, they'd shake off the stress of the moment, and they get back into rebuilding the fort, whatever. And all the defenders are dead, but they'd start all over. And the tribe wouldn't have survived if half the people, a third of the people hadn't run away and a third of the people hadn't frozen. Mm-hmm. They did what was natural for them to do for the self-preservation of their tribe, of the species. All through our lives, we trust our instincts. And if our instincts say to us, so if you're in a situation where you're being bullied in school, get up and run away. Just run away. Just don't stay the victim. Don't let the person run away. Scream and shout out loud so that the person attracts attention, that they won't bully you. They need you to be a victim. So you scream and shout at home, scream and shout that, be quiet. No! Scream and get your neighbours to come along. Phone the police. Run away from home, run away from school. What happened? My dad's beating me up. My teacher's beating me up. My so-and-so Johnny's beating me up. You take action and you stop this from happening. Mm-hmm. And if your therapist doesn't understand you and keeps giving you these wrong diagnoses because you're not the same person, get a new therapist. Get a therapist who understands you, who's also. So if you're someone who flights, get a therapist who flights as well. If you're someone who freezes, get a therapist who freezes. If you're someone who fights, get a therapist who fights. Get somebody who's on the same page, one of your tribe, to work with you. Because otherwise we're screwed. If we get someone who isn't of our tribe and you ask them to it'd be like, I suppose, God forgive me, a black man in the Deep South getting some of the Ku Klux Klan to present him, represent him at court, he'd have to go to hope in hell. We have to get someone from our own tribe. We have to get someone who knows how we think and how we feel to coach us. So like an AA, you get an AA member to teach you how to do the AA's program. You don't get a GA member to teach you how to do the AA program, because the GA member could teach you how to do the GA program, but he can't teach you to do the AA program. So you get someone who knows, has walked that in that footpath, in that path before you, to take you down that path. And that's the simplest thing we can do, is make sure whoever you get to work with you, they know how your mind thinks, they know how you feel, how you react.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really what I'm trying to. Yeah.
Well, I think it's actually a great point in terms of intentional selection, because each of these, what you said earlier, your reaction is right and their reaction is right. It's a very, very difficult, nuanced job to be a therapist, of any discipline at all. And this conversation, absolutely acknowledges that fact. But you need to be a bit more educated and learned about what it is you think is going to be the best fit for you. It's the same in coaching. Not every single person is going to be a good fit for a variety of reasons, and it depends on the I guess you could say the professionalism and maturity and ability to see through what this relationship could look like as to whether you would be a good fit to be able to work together to get the results that you're looking to get. So, you might, even if you don't know where to start, just start. See if it's working for you, and if it's not, then figure out the parts that are, the parts that aren't. Go speak to someone, and then figure out what your next selection criteria could be. I love that, the ability to be able to take ownership and make sure you're selecting the most appropriate based on the information that you have at the time. So, in terms of the 12-step program that you've developed, Richard, I talked about that a little bit earlier, and this helps people break free from past trauma. Could you tell me a bit more about the program?
Brilliant. Okay, but the first part is the healing event. We have to break free of the past trauma memory, because that's the cause of everything. Science says it's all about cause and effect. So the cause is the past trauma memory. The effect is the mental disorder. So to get rid of the mental disorder, we have to get rid of to get rid of the effect. We have to get rid of the cause. If the cause is the past trauma memory, we must find a way to give that memory, the details of the memory, back to our younger self. So for me, it was 52-year-old Richard giving the details of the past back to 12-year-old Richard. A young 12-year-old child who suffered the trauma, giving it back to him. And it's a very spiritual, holistic visualization where you see the young fella saying, Richie, give me my shit back. You've been carrying for 40 years. I want to leave this plane of existence, but I can't go until I have my details. Please give me my baggage. And you kind of go, okay. And you give them, and you feel this release in your body. And in that moment, you feel the release mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually in your body. It takes 2 hours. And after that, the past trauma memory is gone. So my therapist said to me, how does that make you feel? Oh, yeah, I feel nothing. It didn't happen to me. It happened to somebody. It's like if Gary broke his leg and I put my leg in a cast. It doesn't help Gary's leg. Gary broke his leg. It's not my responsibility how Gary feels. It's got nothing to do with me. And once you do that, then you can unlearn the learned dysfunctional behavior and bad habits of the disorder. And they are bad habits. We're told not to trust people. It's not safe to let people get close. And suddenly, that's not just strangers. Then we start treating our families like that. We're pushing our families away, and so many breakups of families and workplaces. We can't trust our boss and our colleagues, and we just can't trust anybody. We're drawn into ourselves. So we have to unlearn that behavior. So the 12 steps basically teaches the person, 1, we're not the victim and we're not the martyr, and we're not the target of the past or anything in our lives. From this day forward, no matter what happens, policeman stops you for double parking. It's not about you. He's just doing his job. He didn't aim it at you to give you a ticket. He's just doing his job. His job is giving out tickets, not to give out a ticket to Gary or to Richard. His job is to give out tickets. And it happened I double parked. Not his fault, not my fault. I'm not the target. He's just doing his job. This kind of stuff. I want to go play golf tomorrow and it rains. It pours out of the heavens. God didn't rain, so I couldn't play golf. It just happened to fucking rain. It wasn't aimed at me, so I can't. God isn't saying, I don't want you to play golf tomorrow, so I'm going to make it rain. It just rained. And happened to be on the same day I'm playing golf, and I can play golf in the rain if I really want to. So it's a case of if I have a preference to play in the sun, well then it's nothing to do with God and it raining. It's a case of I have to decide whether I really want to play golf or not. So this kind of stuff. So the first step is accepting that we're not victims or targets of anything past, present, or future. And if we can get to that place of we're not a victim, everything changes. Honestly, if right now you can accept that you're not a victim, your wife leaves you, your boss fires you, You lose your home. You lose this podcast job. You have to leave Canada back to Scotland. Whatever it is, if you say, no one's out to get me. I lost the podcast because I didn't pay the fees. My wife left me because I'm not looking after her. My visa went because of my visa. I overstayed my visa. Okay, that's the way it is. No one's out to get me. They're doing a cull in all, like America, doing a cull in all the visas. That's just, it's happening in America right now. And if I'm caught in the net, Donald Trump didn't say, okay, let's get Gary. Let's go and get Gary. No, he just went, we're getting everyone who's, no, and that kind of stuff. So if you get to the stage where you realize you're not the victim, everything changes for you. Then the second step is basically you're not alone. There's always, and the world today we live in, there's so much resources on social media, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. Free resources, learning, training, skill. You can go to your boss and say, I'm not great at this job. I don't lose my job. Can you give me more training? And they say, yeah, certainly. Rather than training a new member, we can train up. Yeah, you do. I pay for myself, whatever. I pay half. Okay, no problem. And you keep your job and you get training. You can ask somebody. You can be at an airport going crazy and kind of stop and say, sorry, you don't know me from Adam. Can I just talk at you for half an hour just to get out of my head? And then you don't have to save me or fix me. I'll just talk at you for half an hour. I get in my plane, you get in your plane. And I guess spew all my shite at some stranger. He doesn't take it above, he just kind of nods. Over. I feel as though I've been heard. He walks away. And he maybe doesn't speak any English at all. He doesn't understand my fast speech. But I feel I've been heard. Whatever. I talk to you, I feel better for it. I bring my dog, my wife's dog, a Chihuahua. He's only tiny. I bring him for short walks. When I'm out walking, I talk to him. I give him all my shit. Whatever's in my head, I just give it to this little Chihuahua. And he's oblivious to me talking. I'm talking away at him there. We walk around the village. We come back to the village. And I feel I've been heard. And he doesn't understand a word of my Irish English. But I just feel like I've been heard. So the second step is to understand that you're never alone. There's always someone you can talk to. You can go to the police station and ask the policeman, would you listen to me for half an hour? Go to a priest or a spiritual advisor or a pastor. You listen to me for half an hour. Perfect stranger, whatever. You chat lines, Simon community. You can phone somebody. You always have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
You can write a letter to yourself. What you do is, with your dominant hand, you write a letter to yourself. And then with your non-dominant hand, you write back to yourself. It's powerful. You write, Dear Richie, and you give out to yourself. And then you write back to yourself, well, I'm very sorry you feel that way. Because you write with your non-dominant hand, it activates the subconscious mind. And what you respond with is different to what you would think with your right hand. Really cool. But all these things you can do. The third step in is give God a second chance. There's no catches. You don't have to join a man-made religion. You don't have to join a church or denomination. Just give God a second chance. The Bible says you go into your bedroom, lock the door, close the curtains, turn off the lights, climb into the wardrobe and say, my God, I'm sick of this shit. This is going on at the moment. Take a pen and paper and write out everything in your head. I'm angry at Gary. I'm angry at my wife. I'm angry at the government. I'm angry at blah, blah, blah. I hate my job. I hate this, blah. Write down everything. Okay, this is everything that's going on in my head that keeps me awake at night. I'm giving it all to you. And then you do a burnt offering. You get out of the wardrobe, you go into the bathroom, tear your page up, light it, flush down the toilets. Get into bed and you sleep for 8 hours. It's amazing. You get 8 hours sleep, you get in a half an hour peace of mind. Do this, just do that and then go to bed. And after you do it, you'll get 8 hours of sleep. And it's more of a scientific, psychological thing that when you can voice all your stuff in your head and put down a bit of paper and burn it, it leaves your mind for that period of time. So it's a God thing. You're giving it to God. God takes it from you. And suddenly you put your head in the pillow and you fall asleep. You wake up 8 hours later thinking, that was easy. If I can get 8 hours now, I want 3 hours between now and getting to work. And then I want 3 hours between my morning from 9 until 12 o'clock. And then I want an hour for my lunch break from 12 to 1. Then I want an hour, 3 hours until my break at 4 o'clock. And you just give yourself these periods of time where you write down all your shit, burn it, flush down the toilets. There you are, I've given it to God. I'm free of it. And you end up being free of it. It's very simple. You give God a second chance. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to join any religion. Just give him all your shit for 10 minutes, 3 minutes, an hour, whatever. And it'll be a wonderful thing. I've only got a minute or two left. I really want to share one thing with you. If you smile, and Gary, you got a great smile. If you smile, everything changes. You can be in the worst funk. You can be full of depression, full of despair. And if you force yourself to simply smile, put a smile on your face, relax your body, breathe into your nose only. When you breathe into your mouth, you aggravate anxiety and panic in your chest. You aggravate the post-traumatic stress in your shoulders. But when you breathe into your nose, it's like the elephant leaves the room. It gets off your chest and leaves the room. You breathe into your nose only and smile. Smile like a fucking idiot. And in that instant of smiling, smile will go to your eyes, it'll go down your chin, it'll go to your neck and shoulders, and you will suddenly feel a difference. You'll feel healthier, happier, and wholer by that smile. And smile for 3 minutes, realize, if I do 20 of those 3 minutes, I've got an hour. So I do 23 minutes. Just do 3 minutes first. Look like an idiot. Just sit there for 3 minutes, no one's around, and smile. Really stupid smile. And then feel the smile spreading across your face and into your eyes. And really get that smile going. And suddenly you'll feel comfortable in that smile. It'll spread into your shoulders. You feel your shoulders relaxing, your chest relaxing. 3 minutes will be up and you kind of go, oh, that was 3 minutes. I can do 20 of those and I get an hour. So give God a second chance. Learn to smile even for only 3 minutes. And just understand this didn't happen to you. Okay.
Yeah. No, I love it. I know. Obviously, there's more steps to the program, and hopefully, people can reach out to you to find out a bit more about it. Of course, this is called the Best You podcast. And what regular practice does Richard employ to give him the best opportunity to be the best version of himself?
Well, the three are: give God a second chance. I mean, you honestly have nothing to lose. I mean, don't tell any of your family or friends. If your friends and family are all atheists and unbelievers, don't tell them you're doing this. So be with the atheists and unbelievers. Don't argue with them. But in the privacy of your own time, in the car, in your bedroom, just say, okay, God, take this shit off me for 10 minutes. Write it all down. Flush down the toilet. Whatever you do, burn it from the ashtray in the car. Just give it to him and you get peace of mind. Give it to me peace of mind for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Just do that regularly and it'll blow your mind away. The one I like is that one where you do the autobiography of yourself and that child. So for me, I put down 64-year-old Richard, married, living in Thailand. His parents are dead, his grandparents are dead. I do that whole biography on one page. And then the other page I put down 12-year-old Richard, lives at home with his parents. One sibling dead, he's a child. And so I can see the differences. I put a photograph of him and a photograph of myself. I can see we're not the same person. And straight away I know what happened to him didn't happen to the person I am today. That's what I have to remember. I only exist in these 24 hours a day. My whole day is finishing with a podcast with you. And it's been great. So that's the second one. And the third one is smile. Learn to try smiling, breathing into your nose. Honestly, try meditation. People say they can't meditate. We can meditate. We can meditate on anger. We can meditate on fucking resentments and fear. And we're brilliant at meditating on depression and PTSD. We're experts. I mean, you talk to someone who has depression. They can meditate on depression for hours. They can meditate on suicidal thoughts. And then they say they can't meditate on peace. It's just they're conditioned to be a victim. That's the big problem we have, is we're conditioned to be a victim. So in that condition, just say, okay, for 3 minutes, I'm going to take a break from being a victim and smile. I'm going to do a big idiotic smile like Richie. Oh, my eyes wide. Very fucking stupid smile on my face and hold there for 3 minutes. And then see how I feel. And even doing that idiotic smile, you'll notice there'll be a difference in your whole body. You can't help it. It's a psychological thing. When you smile for 3 minutes, the most idiotic smile you can muster, you'll find it gets easier over time. But something changes in your brain, because the brain is hearing, Richie's smiling, you must be happy. And all your depression leaves you for 3 minutes, and suddenly you kind of go, I feel better. Okay, I'll do it for 3 more minutes. Yeah. And eventually you're fucking laughing. You learn to sing in the shower. Ah, ah, ah. That's what you got to do, sing in the shower with a smile, you know. Ah, ah, ah. When you're walking the dog, just singing with a smile. And you start putting a smile into every walk of your life, and everything changes. So this is to teach you that you're the best therapist for you. It's not anybody else, it's you. If you learn to breathe into your nose only, you stop all the stress and anxiety. If you learn to do that, the 2 pages, and see yourself compared, you'll know that what happened in the past didn't happen to you. Same with what's happening to you today didn't happen to that 12-year-old child. If you can't change places with them, then they can't change places with you. Then it doesn't work. So this regression therapy is the worst idea that's been sold to people. We don't regress, we actually bring the past into the present. And it destroys everything. The death and decay of the past destroys everything it touches. Relationships, empathy, intimacy. Regression therapy is a reverse procedure. It's bringing the death and decay of the past into the present. The worst thing we can do is regression therapy. Don't ever touch regression therapy. It's self-sabotaging. Thank you, Gary. Sorry I went on beyond.
Interesting, very interesting stuff. Richard, where can people find out more about you?
Well, my 17-year-old son, who's my IT man, is busy gaming, so I haven't got a website yet. He's promising me a website. I can't push it. So when he's ready, he's free, I'll have a website. Hopefully in the coming weeks. But I've been saying that for months now, and it's slow coming. I have an email address. It's Richard. It's information at traumarecoveryanonymous.com. My program is available on Amazon and other book platforms. The healing event is only available on Amazon. It's called How to Heal Any Past Trauma Memory. And it's a 2-hour practice that when you complete it, you have broken free of your past trauma memory. And the only person who can heal you is you. I can't fix or save you. Gary can't fix or save you. No therapist can fix or save you. Yeah. Only you can change your attitude, your outlook, and your perspective by having honesty, openness, and willingness to accept that the past didn't happen to you. When you can achieve that, you can just discard the past in 10 minutes. I had one client who did it in 20 minutes. It can take up to 2 hours, but you can get it done in 20 minutes very easily. And then once you've got that done, the 12-step program is available on Amazon. It's available on most other book platforms. It's called Trauma Recovery Anonymous. And you do the 12-step program to rid yourself of the dysfunction, learned behavior of the mental disorder, of that person's opinion.
Yeah, I love it. Richard, thank you very, very much for joining me today. I learned a lot, my friend.
Gary, pleasure. I loved it. I've been waiting for this for months, guys. We planned this months ago, and I remember when I met Gary and he asked me to come on his podcast, I said yes, and then we realized he couldn't fit me in until now. Like this is like 5 months later, and I've been very excited about getting another Celt and talking. I hope we both didn't speak too fast, that you could understand our words. But I really enjoyed every moment of it, Gary. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.